So today I'm going to show you how to find your unfair market advantage and how to double your response and outsell everybody in your marketplace. If you're anything like me and you've been in the game a minute, you see a lot of people focusing and talking about the offer, right? It's got to be irresistible. We got to have this pricing tactic. We got to reverse the risk reversals. We got to have certain bonuses. We got to structure it a certain way. And that is, I would say, less than half of the equation. Because you can have the best offer in the world, but if you point that at the wrong person, no matter how hard you try, good luck trying to sell the level that you want to sell. You're still going to get lucky. You know, even a broken clock is right twice a day. But at the end of the day, if we don't have market selection dialed in, we are going to be in for a world of hurt. And I'm going to share with you in this training how to find your unfair market advantage so you can stand out and hit all your revenue goals and achieve everything you want to achieve. Okay. So we are taught three main ways to go about this, and I'm going to show you my way. And it's just basically like, it's not because I'm like some super smart guy or anything. It's just how I've learned to do it after about 20 years in the marketplace running in paid advertising and marketing. So the first way that we're taught is psycho and demo graphics. Essentially who this person is, right? Like, this is the heart of the almighty avatar. Like, who this person is, what do they watch, how much money do they make, where do they live, what state are they in, what house are they in, etc., 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 etc. The problem that I find with this is we're guessing, right? There's a lot of guessing going on here. And if we're being honest, we're either using AI to scrape like Reddit and review sites, which is an advanced tactic, which does work and it gives you some, but it's still coming from a third party. You're not like sitting there witnessing these things happening. You're getting some researched information and then you're making educated guesses based on that. Now, you can still take that, go to market, write the ads, write the offer, write all the funnel, and you will eventually test until you land on something that is the right message. And when you discover that message, everything changes, right? In your market, you blow up and you get the result that you desire. And then the second way that we're taught is, actually, let's see if I can just go. Oh, whoops. Perfect. The second way to do this is a blue ocean, right? Have you ever heard of this tactic, the blue ocean? So basically what is being said here is that there is blood in the water. Most of the market is hyper competitive and you don't want to go after that market, right? What we want to identify is, how do we find a blue ocean in a red market? So all of this is everybody fighting on over price or promises. So you may see this on like Instagram or Facebook where it's like, get 1,000 clients in an hour, right? Or I'll get you 1 million views in X. That is competing over promise, right? Versus results, which I'm going to show you how to compete on results, which is the best form of marketing on the planet from my experience. And what this wants you to do is kind of be like a trailblazer and like find your own unique thing. It could be, this also leads to like category creation and all of these things. If I'm being 100% transparent, I've never been able to execute on this. Like I've tried, I've read the book, I've listened to the concept. I understand it. I think I do. But without millions of dollars, and I'm not a venture-backed startup, it's going to be very, very hard to carve out your blue ocean and then ultimately build a category in and around that. I've been unable to do it. Would I like to do it? Sure, sign me up. But I have not been able to do that at all. And then the third thing that we are taught, and this is really, really common, right? And this makes every business owner, marketer, copywriter on the planet kind of flinch, whether they admit it or not. The niche or the niching down, usually by some sort of demographic, right? This is usually by industry. And then so this would look something like, you know, you want to go after all, here, let's go back to red. You're going to go to a broad market. Let's say you want to go after home service companies, but then you want to just specify and do roofers, right? The issue with this is like, let's say you sold email, right? And you're like, everybody in this market could have email and benefit from it, which is great. But going down to just roofers, every roofer that wants to do email, make money using email, it's still a huge market. You probably got 1 million plus people in there, and it's just a lot of waves. And when you understand like your business's math, so let's say you sell something for $10,000, or the average lifetime value of a customer, of a copywriter, consultant, direct response marketer, let's say it's like $10,000 to $20,000. Let's just say you don't need a ton of those to hit lots of numbers, right? Like, let's just do some math here. Let's go. Let's say your market is 20,000 people. So you go 20,000 people times the average order value of 20 grand a year. That's $400 million, my friend. So you only need, like, what is 10% of that? $40 million, right? So you only need 2,000 of them. And we're talking of a lifetime of a business. And what's cool about markets is that they replenish over time. It's not this static thing. Like, as time goes on, there's new roofers coming in trying to figure out how to build the roofing business. And then there's old roofers getting out of the business. And it's just a cycle that happens. The problem with just niching down is that you're still way too broad. So let's sum this up. We have the psycho and demographics is the avatar, but we're pretty much just guessing and or getting third-party data. Then we just go to market, run the ads to validate it, and then we test and test and test until we find what works. And once we find what works, we isolate it and amplify it. And then we start guessing and testing again. And I always joke with my students, it's like direct response marketers and copywriters are wrong more than your average weatherman. So we make a lot of mistakes, but when we get it right, we get it right. And I'll show you how to make it a little bit easier to, instead of it feeling like a luck or just a chance to land on something, a predictable way to make that happen. And then the blue ocean, again, is like crafting and creating that category, which I've never done. So, and if you can do it, kudos to you. I'm proud of you, but that's not something that I've been able to reproduce in my business or my life. And then to niche down and just speak to a market that's still very, very broad, my response rate has not been great. And I'm going to show you how to fix all of that. But first, I want to explain a couple of concepts and just kind of show you where things live. So there's a concept, if you saw my last video or last couple of videos on PayPal and how they got their start, I'm not going to get into that in this video, but they essentially identified what's called a Tiny TAM. And TAM is total addressable market. Think of it as like anybody in the world who's willing and able to buy from you. That's your total addressable market. And then the idea of Tiny TAM is starting very small and then kind of letting that snowball and connecting them together. I want to show you how I think about it, and then I'll actually show you how to do it and what questions to ask. Sound good? All right, let's get it. So I like to think of it as, let's say these are like little pockets of oil in the ground. All right. There we go. Look at Picasso over here, man. Beauty. Perfect. And then we have our derricks here. Is what they use to pump the oil out of the ground. Your towers here. This will be worth it, I promise. I can't promise that you can unsee these drawings after I've drawn them, but I promise this will be worth it. Okay, so we take our Tiny TAMs, and the Tiny TAMs reside in here. This isn't the full market. This isn't all the oil in the ground. There's huge reservoirs here. Let's say that there's, let's draw another little big guy. So that's the Tiny TAM. This is the overall market. It's massive, but we're just speaking to a small little portion of it. Like when we drill, we're drilling in and we are just, let's go here. Let's make that green. We're taking our drill and getting our Tiny TAM. We're then pumping that up. Our Tiny TAMs are customers. Our customers are coming up and being fed via our pipeline to our refinery, which is our main offer. This is the main thing you sell. So instead of niching down on like this level on your main offer, whether that's a service, copywriting, whether that is funnel building, whether that's media buying, whatever your main service is, coaching, consulting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, your expensive stuff, the ones where people are paying you the bucks deluxe to get in on, that stays unchanged in the back end. By picking a niche with your product or service, you're really limiting yourself in what is possible, because we've all done this. Like, I'm going to do just roofers. And then all of a sudden you're like, a doctor comes to you and he's like, hey, I want to pay you $4,000. You're like, I'll take that. And then you end up with like this mixed match of people with nothing in common. I'm going to show you how to change all that. But so we take our front end offer. This is usually a low ticket thing, anywhere from $5 to $100. That solves a very specific problem. We drill into our TAM, and this is through our ads, and our funnel live here. And then we start sucking that up, and this goes to our sales call. And essentially this will come all the way around through our pipeline. So this is my attempt of a pipeline, which will be fed into our back end offer. So this is essentially an ascension offer, right? Not to be mistaken with a self-liquidating offer. Obviously, we want to self-liquidate if we can. That's just advantageous. But if we don't, that's fine. We drill a hole. The customers come up. We pipe them into our main offer. So what this looks like is like they buy a book from us. Our ads are speaking to a very specific person. Our funnel is speaking to a very specific person. And then we ascend them through to our high ticket offer, which is usually in the form of book a call or view a Google Doc or messaging or closing in the DMs, something along those lines. But we turn them into a buyer, and then we come in and we scoop up everybody in that tiny TAM, which is good from an economic standpoint. Then we pump that out. Our ads are somewhat liquidated, usually not fully, but we get there. And then our back end offer, we can just sell. And this does not change. This is the exact same. So all of this front end marketing, because that's what it is. All of this, here, let's do a better color. All of this is niche down. Your offer is still making money with email. Whether you have a roofer, an HVAC, it doesn't matter, but they don't see that. What they see is an offer specific for roofers, specific for HVAC, specific, etc. And then we can walk them through that process, which the whole point of a front end is to give them the solution. We just give them the solution, and then the back end is selling the implementation, whether that's through your coaching, done with you, done for you, etc. Does that make sense? Cool, right? And then, so we've been able to identify these tiny TAMs. We've been able to drill and get that all organized. Now, how do we go about doing that? Well, we got to answer these 3 questions. And how I identify a tiny TAM is based on results. Let's go. Assets and resources. And then what I call worldview. And this could be identity, this could be some other things, but essentially what this looks at is like, what results, tangible results, can we get for the marketplace? What assets and resources does that market already have? And what worldview do we share? So from a results perspective, what this does is it looks at us. What can we do and who could benefit from that more than anybody? So for an example of the email, let's say we're an email specialist, right? We write these amazing sequences that close deals. So we look at, and we're going after service companies because that's something that we've decided. And then we're looking at which niche to go after. Now, a roof is $40,000. Kitchen remodel is like $30,000, maybe even more. I don't know the details. Anyways, we look at who a deal would be the most valuable for. So let's say that ends up being roofers. We're like, we can get the biggest result for roofers because this email process works. We implement it. They get one or two more deals. That's $30,000 or $40,000. It's $80,000 in revenue for their business. This is hugely valuable for them. So that's the result that we can get, right? We know who can benefit the most from what it is that we do. Then we have to look at who has the assets and resources. Now, to stick with the theme of like emails, do they have an email list? Are they currently doing email? Do they have a sales process that works to close people that put their hand up? Is it just a one-man show? Do they have a team? What do they have cash to run ads? Do we need ads for the system to work? Do they have the time, the energy, the bandwidth to make this work? Do they have the team, right? What assets and resources does this perfect person have to make that result inevitable, right? Like what assets and resources, let's say like an example, like on the email front, let's say you have one company, roofing company that's got like 10 emails. That's it. They've never sent emails before, but they've collected 10 somehow on a scrap of paper. That's one roofer, right? Then you have another roofer who's got a list of 5,000 customers that they've dealt with over X amount of years. They've been in business 20 years. Who would you rather implement your email system for? Somebody who's got 10 emails written on a piece of paper? I hope not. And then you got somebody who's got 5,000 emails over here. Like when you understand what they need to have for you to make them successful with your system, wow, marketing becomes really, really easy, right? Like it's just about getting in there. And I literally joke, I'm like, what do they need to have in order that even if they get hit in the head and you totally drop the ball, but they will still get the result and it will become ultimately inevitable. That's how I think about it, right? So when we know what result that we can deliver and who can get the biggest value from it, and then we know what assets and resources the market has in place, the person has in place to make the success inevitable, then it becomes about the worldview. And the worldview is very important because if we're being honest, people like to do business with people they know, trust, and like. And who are we more likely to trust? People like us, right? So whether that's a political standpoint, whether that's a religious standpoint, whether that's a cultural standpoint, it could be a dream, aspirational, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, look at Nike, just do it. Now, who's wearing Nike? People that want to get after it. You know what I mean? And like I'm wearing a Patagonia shirt today. It's like Patagonia is that outdoor company, right? People that are wanting to get out into nature and to feel that vibe and that energy. And that's why you wear a brand, right? Like you're representing who you are as an individual. So an example of this would be like, I get roofers 2 to 4 additional roofs every single month using email. But in order to do that, you need to have an email list. You need to have an ad budget. You need to have a sales team to close those deals. And you need to have all the things that we need. And I do it specifically for people, for Christian roofers. So people that believe in Christ. That could be an angle that we could use, right? And once we have that, it becomes a sentence, right? Like I just said. But once we have that, everything downstream becomes 1,000 times easier. Now I know what to say in my ads. Now I know what the funnel needs to say. I know what problem my front end product has to solve, right? First, we could like literally just show them how to do the system and get the result themselves. And then on the back end, we literally just say, hey, you could set all this stuff up yourself, or hear me out, you could go get more roofs and I'll do it for you. Drop the mic, right? Like that's what we're doing. We're solving the problem and showing we've identified, hey, obviously the mass desires that they want more results. We show them how to get more roofs, more clients, that 80 grand additional a month that's shown to them. We tell them what assets and resources that they need to have in place in order to make that a reality. The thing that we sell on the front end, I like books personally because a book is a way to transform someone. Now we can take what's in a book and turn that into a masterclass. We can turn that into an audio program. We can turn that into a lot of different things to get the same result. And what essentially it does is it allows them to believe that it's possible for them. It makes them feel like buying. And once they see it, they can't unsee it. So even when they go back to the regular day, they've saw something that they can't unsee. And whether they try to do it themselves and piece it together, which is painful, and most people do, they go to try to build it together and then they're like, this isn't working very well for me. And then that's when our offer is absolutely irresistible, right? Because they believe that this is the way forward, but they're unable to do it themselves, whether they have the time, energy, resources, they're missing something. And so what they do is they book a call with you, they go to your Google Doc, they DM you, and then that's when we close them our high ticket thing. And this is a process that we can go and drill multiple TAMs if necessary to hit our revenue goals. But what I can tell you from experience that if you select one based on who you can get the biggest result for, the assets and resources that they have in place, and their worldview, which is going to be unique to you because the results that you provide and how you get them is different than anybody else in the world. And the fact they're even thinking about what a successful customer needs to have in place to make your result inevitable, combine that with a worldview that is uniquely yours or for your group of people that you belong to, or an identity, you become unstoppable. And then so this is kind of what it looks like. I'll just draw one last piece to illustrate it a little bit more. So we got our results. We got our assets and resources. And then we have our worldview. And this little part here, right here, is our tiny TAM. That's where the money is. Now, we're not relying on psychographics and demographics. We already know who we can get the biggest result for and who this would be the benefit for. We already know what assets and resources these people need to have in place, and they are already like us in one way or another, which gives us common ground to start a conversation. That's it. And then once we have that, we're able to run the ads, and then there's still testing involved, of course, and we have to build a funnel, which we use a simple 3-step funnel in order to do for our clients. That's what we teach our students. And then once we have that in place, we run the ads, and then we either go to the next one and build the next one, or we keep that running. And that looks like 3 to 5 calls every single day consistently, so you can build and grow and scale your business. Now, you can turn it up to the maximum of your TAM, but if you need more calls, let's say you need 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 calls a day, then you just identify another TAM. And what happens is your TAM regenerates over time, right? The market isn't static, so it's constantly growing. Hopefully that serves you. Hopefully that makes sense. Then we take this, we put it through our factory, right? So this is the oil reserve. We put that through our refinery, and you make money. The client gets the outcome and the result that it desires, and it becomes a win. Wow, that was brutal. Wow, you get what I'm saying. It becomes a win-win situation for everybody involved. And you've been able to crack one of the most overlooked parts of an amazing, incredible offer. And that is who we're going to sell it to. And you're going to do it based on your results, the assets and resources they have, and the worldview that y'all share together. All right. Hopefully that serves you. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.